In the past, Red Bull Racing always struggled on the straights and the real power circuits, but in 2022, they are actually dominating at high speed. In fact, they are way ahead of other teams in terms of performance. What is the secret behind Red Bull and Max Verstappen's dominance this season? Stay tuned to find out. Let me start by talking about how good Red Bull has been this season. Red Bull's performance this season has been astonishing. Even Lewis Hamilton, who has won 7 world championships, has nothing but respect for the Milton Keynes-based team. Hamilton stated this when he was asked about Red Bull's performance this season. You've got to take your hat off to Red Bull. They've done a phenomenal job. They had a great car last year as well. If you look at Adrian Newey, he doesn't generally build bad cars. He's built amazing cars over the years. My championship-winning car was an evolution of his car. He did his thesis on ground effect flaws. I mean, it's no surprise, to be honest. He's one of the only ones that draw by hand the design of cars. So his understanding there has definitely been an advantage to them, and they have done a good job. Red Bull's pace this season has left their closest rival Ferrari confused. The Ferrari boss couldn't help but talk about how impressive Red Bull's performance was at the Belgian Grand Prix. Spa generally necessitates teams to choose between higher and lower downforce setups, but the speed of the Red Bull in Verstappen's hands was ominous across the lap. This reveals that the Red Bull RB18 has a very efficient car with a high downforce to drag ratio and a reliable engine. Mattia Binotto said, "What is more concerning for me is to see that they have been capable of running a lower downforce but still having a great type of speed in the middle sector where you need downforce. So I think they've got both of it, which is back to the efficiency. They've got low drag and great downforce on the car." Before we talk about what Red Bull has done differently this season, I know you're enjoying this video. So for you to not miss out on my other amazing videos, hit the subscription button and give this video a thumbs up. It's that easy. Thanks for doing that. Let's move on. Earlier in the season, Ferrari were closer to Red Bull in performance terms, but there can now be no doubt that Red Bull have responded to the new regulations better than any other team. Let's take a look at how Red Bull's car was designed. As we witnessed at Monza and Spa, the RB18 is not just efficient on the straights, but also makes full use of the good downforce it generates. This does not necessarily indicate that it is faster on a single lap. Ferrari has more poles this year, but it does mean that it is faster in a race. As always in Formula 1, winning depends on how well the car's aerodynamics and overall design work together, and that is exactly what Red Bull has done with the R18. With the new regulations, the aerodynamic understanding of the ground effect is key. Red Bull have a better handle on that than their rivals, thanks to their excellent engineering team led by Adrian Newey. Newey is one of the few engineers still working in the paddock who has first-hand knowledge of the ground effect cars used in Formula 1 during the early 1980s. In addition, he has experience with porpoising from competing in other racing series, which gave Red Bull an advantage to counter the issue. When Newey was asked about the secret of Red Bull's success this season, he said, "I'm one of the few people that were around when ground effect was around the first time. And porpoising, everyone Formula 1 talks about it as if it's a new thing. It's prevalent in LMP, the prototypes. It's a known phenomenon that hasn't been with the flat-bottom cars, but it's obviously back with us." Newey admitted that he had worked on a ground effect study, which was quite useful for this season. He added, "Yes, there was a thesis on ground effects, so it was my first introduction to ground effect aerodynamics. Obviously, it was a very long time ago now." Newey worked for McLaren from 1997 until 2005, after which he joined Red Bull in 2006. His design helped Sebastian Vettel win 4 consecutive world championships between 2010 and 2013, and he continues to be the driving force behind Red Bull's car design year after year. The Red Bull car mainly gains speed as the straight progresses. This is due to the fact that the rear would lower itself, allowing the diffuser to function more effectively and reducing the amount of drag. In the year 2021, Mercedes did the same. The rear of the Mercedes car also dropped down last year to increase speed. Because of the high rake concept that Red Bull used last year, this was not possible because the distance between the back of the car and the ground was too large. Whereas teams like Mercedes have deliberately chosen not to use this concept in 2022 because ground effect cars are already very close to the track. The high rake concept is useful for Red Bull at this time. This is because Red Bull has more room at the back than the other teams, allowing the possibility of dropping down. So why did Mercedes do the same? They didn't because doing so would make the car heavier. Also, Mercedes' car is already closer to the ground because of its lower chassis. The design has made Red Bull the dominant force on the straight in 2022, making it almost unbeatable in the races. However, the car was much heavier than it is now, particularly when the season started. As a direct consequence, Red Bull had a harder time with twisty tracks and qualifying. However, Red Bull was able to solve that issue during the season by making modifications to many other components of the car. In addition, there are a few more smaller areas in which they have an advantage over competitors such as Mercedes and Ferrari. The anti-dive, anti-lift, and anti-squat characteristics of their suspension are some of the factors that contribute to the car's corner entry and exit stability. With the new ground effect aerodynamic regulations, the underfloor is critical to generating downforce. Because of the Red Bull suspension, the car has a more stable platform when braking and accelerating, which supports the car and prevents it from moving around so much. For other teams to achieve stability, they need to run their cars stiffer, which comes at the expense of lap time. This is a huge advantage from a mechanical standpoint. A good car without a good driver is nothing. Verstappen is a huge factor in the team's and car's success. He is undoubtedly on another level to his teammate because of how well he contributes to the team. When it comes to the design or engineering of a car, many people get excited about new parts, but don't really know how to use them. Verstappen is not overly enthusiastic about the parts, but he is clear about what he wants and how to use it to his advantage on the track. When he gets something, he is sure to put it to good use. His fellow teammate Sergio Perez was significantly closer earlier in the year, but the distance has since widened to where it was throughout 2021. This is not necessarily because the Red Bull has been designed around Verstappen's requirements, but because he has a sound understanding of the mechanical aspects of how a racing car works, thanks to his father, Jos Verstappen. Development will always take the car in the direction of the better driver. And Verstappen now has what he wants, and it shows. Verstappen is a happy driver when the car is loose and more towards oversteering. He wants the car's rear on corner entry to rotate and do half of the turning. Perez does not like this so much. At the beginning of the year, the vehicle undoubtedly had a better overall balance than it does now. However, this did not suit Verstappen, and the chassis has since been modified to have more front end. Does Red Bull's current dominance at the start of the new regulations suggest that we could witness a recurrence of the success that Mercedes and Hamilton had, which led them to winning 6 drivers' titles in 7 years? It is possible, but things can still change. Every team will have learned a lot from this year. In reality, Red Bull took their competitors by surprise this year, but 2023 would be more competitive. It shouldn't be too difficult for other teams to implement the suspension geometry that has helped Red Bull this season. It's possible that we'll see it on cars other than the Red Bull in the upcoming season. However, this does not mean we will turn up to testing next year with a grid full of Red Bull clones. As Red Bull does, the other teams would concentrate on ensuring that every component of their package works in tandem to provide the desired outcome. The RB18 is such an excellent car because it successfully balances various complicated elements despite its relatively simple appearance. The underfloor detail is unbelievable compared to the Mercedes and Ferrari. A great amount of attention paid to seemingly little details could save a tenth of a second. Mercedes will not abandon its small side pod and floor concept in favor of a design that resembles the Red Bull. The top 3 teams, as well as the teams further down the grid, will still have a distinct appearance. Red Bull's car design, combined with Verstappen's excellent driving skills, has made the Milton Keynes-based team a dominant force. What's your thought about Red Bull and Max Verstappen's dominant performance this season? Let me know in the comments section below. That will be all for today's video. Thanks for staying tuned. Please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and notification bell so that you can always get to watch more amazing videos like this. See you in the next video.